Casey Criswell.
Hola!
Hello.
What's going on, man?
We're streaming, but I haven't sent the link out yet. I'm going to do that momentarily, and then I'm going to go have my pre-show constitutional. Everything else is looking like it's running well, so.
Sweet.
We do need some, off-the-top topics, though. We can definitely talk, I guess, the rest of the year. We can talk about Jason's show. There was, Jason, some discussion about the name, so let's just say it is as yet named.
What do you think? It's Behold an Electric Terror is the current name of it.
That's not bad. Did you
Yeah,
was that in the email?
I think I messed it up when I was editing it. I didn't put the whole thing in, but yeah.
Okay. It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing with like those Patreon shows is you don't have to be worried about being too on the nose. Like, just have fun with it because it's a thing for patrons and people will figure it out if they're interested.
What are you guys going to cover?
We're talking about mostly anthology horror shows. So in our first episode, Sophie, Luke, Andrew, and I, we talked about Twilight Zone Monsters Are Due on Maple Street for our first episode, which was a lot of fun. We're going to be putting out, next week we're going to talk about, or this week we're going to talk about Stranger Things, but typically what we're going to do is put out a Twitter poll for people to vote on, 3 episodes or so of shows, let them pick, and then we'll discuss it. We need a buffer week, so.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Should be fun.
Did you guys see my sick tattoo from the weekend?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Oh yeah, we can talk about that. You want to get a picture sent to me, Casey?
Sure.
Give me a moment here. I'll start a chat before I walk away.
Probably should get into Gmail then, huh?
Yeah. Oh man, this is gonna be an actual real pre-show constitutional.
Thanks for the warning.
Should not have taken probiotics right before the show. It was a terrible idea.
Well,
I mean, it'll be great in a minute, but at the moment, I'm
exactly.
feeling a strange sense of urgency over here. Let's see, events.
All right, yeah, I see the chat here.
Thank you.
We'll add Mark in if he shows up. Like, he might just be late, but I wouldn't count on it. So we're just going to start at 8 and go from there.
The baby business getting too big for him?
Yeah, I don't think it's him. It's a story for another day. BGH Reviews Creep 2.
That's the answer I was fishing for, but but that's sufficient.
Whoa! Holy shit! Did you guys hear that? Oh my god!
What?
No, I didn't.
I didn't have the notifications turned off on that chat, and when you posted it, beeped way too loud in my ear. That was fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's funny. It's kind of the downfall to this flick and looking for screenshots because they're all that same.
Just his face.
Yeah, straight on his face.
Couldn't get any nude dupless.
Nope. I'm sure I could find some if I wanted to dig deep enough. and I can't say I'm an expert on guy attractiveness, but I seem to think he'd be all right.
Who's this, Duplass?
Yeah.
My wife is not a fan. She thinks he looks like there's something very funny looking about him. I think it's that he looks like an anthropomorphic hawk.
He does.
Like
he looks like the eagle from the Muppets.
If Hawkman was a literal, no, fucking 1000%. But he's got, I don't know, he's got a certain charm to him. We can talk about it on the show.
I love me some Duplass. He's a great guy.
All right, I will be right back, gentlemen. We're ready to go though. If you see Schnars on the Skype there, Casey, I think you can just add him in, even though you didn't start the call.
Okay.
So just keep an eye out for him, and I'll be right back.
So tell me about this tattoo. You got a new one?
Yes, my first one.
Oh, it is.
Yes.
Nice, dude.
They had Colleen and I got them for our 20th anniversary.
Fantastic.
They probably can't see it real well there, but it's Frankenstein and the Bride.
Oh yeah, dude, that's fantastic. That is sweet.
She got the same one on her shoulder, or on her back of her shoulder.
It's fantastic. They did a good job on that.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with how it turned out.
I dig the black and white too.
Yeah. They actually added some white to it because I even asked him, I'm like, I'm not pasty enough to white.
Well, for like the bride's hair, I'm assuming, because that's very white. Like that's,
Yeah, there was a couple spots that like in the highlights that they hit it. I was really happy with how it came out.
It looks great.
Awesome. Colleen's came out good too. Hers is a little smaller, but
yeah. What's the location too?
Yeah. Yeah, it looked funny the first time he put the transfer up there from hers. He was gonna try that on my arm, and it was so small. It looked pretty bad. I am not finding a good poster.
No peach fuzz?
I do have one. I think it's from the first movie, though.
Mm.
Because he didn't have Peach Fuzz out very often. He did have the mascot. I could throw that one in there.
Well, he had the driving the car, right?
Yeah. How'd you guys do with the Halloween with the twins?
I mean, man, I've been a mess. Like last week, even though I was on the show, I had the flu, and now I have like a lung infection, so I've been kind of laid up. My wife kind of handled all of it. We took them to like a little trunk or treat area,
Nice.
We didn't bother taking them like around the neighborhood because it was kind of like they're not eating candy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They had a little thing at their daycare where they got to wear their outfits, and they were really into wearing the costumes, which I was super happy about.
Nice.
Yeah, I was afraid it was going to be a scenario where it's like, hey, get this crap off my face, but they were good.
Yeah. As they get older, my daughter, as she got older, the sooner that the mask ended up on the top of her head as the night started.
Yeah.
It's like, screw it.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm out.
What's up?
Well, we'd actually bought them the Star Wars stuff like last year, but it was just ended up being way too big for them, so we had to wait until this year and slap it on them. If after this year, we're gonna try to let them choose their own type of thing, But
Nice.
What the hell do they know now? It's our last opportunity.
Man, my kid is so much fun right now. It's like I'm seriously enjoying it. We're like pre-terrible twos, and so she's like very engaged and talking a lot and like laughing and giggling and fun, but she's not. I don't have to deal with like the real parenting shit yet because like she's not really old enough to understand discipline. So it's just like I'm just trying to enjoy it because it's like it's a really fun phase, and she's sleeping awesome too, which is the shit.
That's fantastic. That's key. Yeah, it's tough, man. Like, before you can really, like, actually punish them, they, like, do stuff, and they think it's funny, and they don't get that they're doing something wrong. And there's not a whole lot you can kind of do about
Like,
it.
if they can't understand you, yeah, it's like, what are you going to do?
Like, literally, they, you know, they could get away with murder right now and be like, well, whatever.
That doesn't get any better at 17, just so you know.
Probably more frustrating because they should be understanding.
Yeah, that's something you really start to understand, that frustration of like, I know what's good for you. Why won't you just fucking listen to me?
At the same time, I never listened to a single adult in my entire life.
Totally.
So, you know,
and this is what I tell my parents, because my parents had the same feeling growing up. Like, I never listened to anything, and they were just so exasperated and all this crap. And what I realized growing up is that the lessons I learned from them that I found the most valuable were things that I learned on my own just watching them. So, like, you know, my work ethic, I learned from my father, but not because he made me do stuff, but because, like, I looked at the way he worked to support the family, and then on some subconscious, like, alien gray matter level, I picked that up. Like, I understood that that was how you were. That's how you be a good parent, is like working hard to support your family. But like, if they ever said that to me, I would have been like, whatever, screw you, you know, like. So I'm just trying to like take heart in that of like, okay, well, as long as I can just like demonstrate being a good person, like hopefully that will rub off.
On the other hand, they're paying attention to everything that you're doing, and that's fucking horrifying.
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
but it's also a really good. It can be used as a really good catalyst for you to continue to do self work of being a better person. You know what I mean? Like those little things that when you see yourself reflected back in their eyes, it should be a little bit of shame / motivation to like, you know what, I can do this human thing better, you know?
Yeah. You're actually having a real world impact.
Yeah, totally. Right.
As opposed to just, you know, berating people on Twitter. You're actually molding a human being.
Yeah, as a dad who's got his work ethic from his mom, it was a pretty proud moment when Delaney got her first job here earlier this year and started volunteering for other people's shifts and stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's like, oh, yes, that's what we need to see.
Oh, we got an email here about this stupid Jason Goes to Hell Deadite thing, and I didn't even want to read it, but we have like no other emails tonight, so.
We don't have any tweets either.
Sweet. When was the last time we tweeted?
Like an hour ago.
Why don't you say like, hey guys, looking thin on the tweets. If you ever wanted to get on the show, now's your chance.
Yeah, we could Patreon it again, like we did that one time.
So here, I'll send you this thing, Jason, if you want to peruse it while we're waiting for Schnars. But basically, the director of Jason Goes to Hell, who's actually a really cool dude, is James Isaacs, I think is his name. He basically said that his original draft, that at some level, I didn't read the whole thing, he had intended for it to be insinuated by that movie that Jason was a Deadite to set up like a crossover, and that it got shot down, but that's why he put all those references in the movie. There's literally like a Necronomicon and a magical dagger and like all this other crap.
Wow.
And so like he basically was incognito because he knew nobody was paying attention, putting it in there anyway, even though it was all shot down. So it's kind of fun. But it's BS, and it started like the exact type of internet discussion you would expect that type of thing would start.
Right.
Hey guys.
Hey buddy. Hey. Crew neck tonight.
John.
Enjoying some Halloween candy.
Rocking the crew neck tonight, I see.
Dude.
Oh shit, old school. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
Sweet.
Very nice.
God, I still love that night. That day that we wore those into Horror Hound and all the heads turned because we were wearing the white t-shirts.
People were pretty into those. The problem that I get with white t-shirts is the armpits get weird.
Yeah.
If I wear too much, but
yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Not me.
No,
I got those issues.
I know you're a sweatless Greek god.
No, I sweat plenty. It's just pure, just untainted.
Rose water.
You could drink it. You could drink it.
Schnars.
I don't understand what the Reese's people are smoking. This is a pumpkin, I guess.
Who cares? For some reason it tastes better.
Yeah.
I think the ratio of peanut butter to chocolate is the key.
Yeah,
Yeah,
way
that's
higher.
what I was gonna say. I think you're right. I think there's more peanut butter, makes it a little bit better.
Mhm.
Damn right. You're damn right.
All right. So what's the story? I mean, if we're not waiting for Mark, maybe just
Yeah, no,
Get cranking.
I'm pretty ready to go. Just give me a second.
Yeah,
So
I gotta
we're-
get to my Dancing with the Stars.
So we're going to talk about upcoming shows. We're going to talk about Jason's podcast, hence yet to be named. But they, what are we going to talk about, Jason? Just so I know what to expect.
I'm gonna lay down what we talked about in episode 1, what we're talking about episode 2, and I'm also gonna throw out there. We have like 4 choices that I'm gonna throw up on our Twitter, that I created probably tomorrow afternoon. So I'll talk about what those choices are going to be, and
basically,
what the name of
so
the Twitters.
Schnars, would the idea be? I know we're still like Jason sent out an email. I know nobody responded, but the idea is this would be a normal show, right? Would be in the feed once a week or once a month, and then it'll be Patreon the rest of the time, like that kind of thing. Or are we just doing it all Patreon, or how do you want to do
Yeah,
it?
well, we can do it in the feed for the first one, and then,
But the
you know,
idea being
go
that
from-
it's something that they can vote on moving forward.
yeah. And I was gonna say, Jason, I can even like put it out to the patrons if you want. There's like a way to do like patron poll posts.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
yeah, I mean, I kicked that around, but I was also kind of thinking like if it was on Twitter, it might encourage people to then, hey, I voted on this, and may move forward and just jump on, dude, and listen to it.
Yeah.
You know,
We
If
could
I open
al-
up to
we-
everybody.
We could always do it put it both ways, maybe. Like I think on your I don't know, Schnars. I think the engagement on Slack might be better, like on Patreon.
Yeah, I mean the patrons definitely
Half
like,
of our
respond to
Twitter-
polls when we post them.
I feel like half our Twitter followers are like porn bots that Joe has interacted with at some point.
I'm cool with that.
All right. Let's record. You gentlemen may mute whenever you're ready.
Welcome to Bloody Good Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween 2007. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. Do not fear, Halloween is over, but we are here to help you soldier on. This is the original post-Halloween support group, Schnars. That's right,
Candy is still flowing strong.
Yeah.
So
the spice. I am Eric. I am your host for this evening. Joining me tonight to discuss Creep 2, starring Hawkman himself, Mark Duplass. First up tonight, joining me, the business manager at bloodygoodhorror.com, coming to you from Manhattan, New York City. His name is John Schnars.
hey guys.
John Schnars, the New York City Marathon yesterday.
Yeah, love it. It's one of my favorite days.
Did you go out and run it backwards just as like a little warm-up run?
No. I had both of my kids. My wife was out of town, so I had both my kids. I took them down there like 45 minutes before the first runners came by
Nice.
to get the hell out of the house. And by the time the runners passed, they were just done. It was like they were fully done. So we saw the leaders, and we had to turn in. We called it.
It's a tough day. It's a lot of sitting around and not doing much and just watching people walk by.
Yeah.
Next.
I saw that a lady won for the first time in 40 years.
Well,
No,
an
an
American lady.
an
There's
Ameri-
always a lady winner.
Well, I thought it was an overall win.
It's
That's my bad.
2017, Casey. Ladies
No.
can win.
I read it as an overall winner. I wasn't trying to be a complete douche.
Next up tonight, fresh off us torturing him with a jigsaw, we decided to throw a good movie his way. Please welcome Mr. Jason to the show.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Thank you, Jason, for joining us on short notice tonight.
Hey, no problem.
And last up tonight on the show, coming to you from Indiana, his name is Casey.
Hi.
He just did some cool, like, dragon fire thing with his vape. That was like, you could be in one of those competitive vape videos, Casey.
I'm planning on going pro next year, so
You haven't lived until you've seen a guy throw a vape Hadouken. Oh, fellas, we are here tonight to talk about Creep 2, starring Mark Duplass. Schnars, I feel like this is actually a great little intersection of a bunch of conversations we've been having lately about like low budget horror and Blumhouse, and this is like literally the personification of all the crap we've been talking about in the show lately.
They are all the worlds are colliding, all of them.
Yes.
No, I mean, do we have a budget number on this? I should have looked it up right before we jumped in.
I mean, it's got to be like $50.
I mean, if you told me $50, I'd be like, it's possible. It's it's definitely possible. No, well, it's funny because the first one, I mean, obviously we'll get into it, but the guy who directed it was also like the only other person in the movie. So it's same director this time around, but they sprung the extra, $60 for another actor,
A real actor.
And then, well, yeah, then they had like a couple of not really extras, but there was like a couple other speaking roles even in the very beginning. So.
Oh, you're right.
There's
The YouTube people.
there's at
right?
least 2 other people in there that had like real acting careers outside of this movie.
Yeah.
They really splurged, is what I'm saying. They really splurged.
Yeah.
So.
I gotta say, it's post Halloween. I'm happy to be back and recording Bloody Good Horror, John. We're doing a service here for all of those Halloween people out there who need a little pick me up.
Yeah, so I haven't listened to the last episode yet. Just give me a quick yay or nay on Jigsaw.
I would like you to watch it so I can hear you talk about it. Let's say that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that
I was
idea. I'll
worried
go
you were
with
gonna say
Eric's
that.
answer.
Yeah.
For John, a yay, a no for the rest of the world.
Let's just say we all hoped that them bringing it back meant they had some brilliant new twist on the whole thing, and the answer is nope. They just literally polished off an old script from like 3 sequels ago and just ran with it. And then we'll talk.
right.
We'll talk.
We don't need to
offline.
get into spoilers. Yeah, we can take it offline, but
There's actually one part I would like to tell you about because it's really ridiculous, but we can do that later. First off, though, John, important stuff. So now that we're done with Halloween, that means the next big milestone in all of our lives really will be John Schnarz's yearly year-end show.
I mean, it's how we mark time.
Yearly
Here at
year-end
Bloody Good Horror.
spectacular.
Yeah, it is how we mark time. Yeah, we were chatting a little bit beforehand. So we actually have about 8 episodes, I would say, give or take. Whether we cover something the week of Christmas is always a toss-up. But there's only one theatrical that is confirmed, at least at this point, and that's Polaroid, which is currently slated for 12/1. We will see. We'll see what happens there. But otherwise, we're going to try and start sneaking in a bunch of other stuff, bunch of stuff that people have recommended, some kind of direct to Netflix things, as is the way of the world these days. So yeah, pretty excited.
We should say too, I think we actually have a pretty good list, but if you have thoughts of some stuff like, hey guys, this is potential top 10 for this year, hit us up on either Twitter or email, and just let us know so we make sure nothing falls through the cracks.
Yeah, what I think will probably happen as we get closer, we're going to cover Babysitter next week, which is on Netflix. We're getting some recommends, getting some good buzz. I've actually seen half of it so far. So I'm interested to, finish it out and let you know what I think. But yeah, other than that, we'll probably cover a couple other things. And then I would imagine as we get really close to the end, if we have some stuff, we'll throw it up for a vote and see what the patrons have to say. Pick our last couple there heading into the new year. Nice.
I'm feeling pretty good about this year in horror, Schnars. Actually, I kind of wish I had Joe here to give me my list because I might have to amend it tonight, but I haven't decided yet. The jury's out. Yeah, it's been a pretty interesting year in horror, and I can't tell if I just think that because I did my top 10 list as we went along, or if it actually was a good year. But I feel like I at least have a good variety on my list this year that I didn't last year.
There's definitely, we should wait and talk about it, but I would say there is less of a thematic thread that we could pull on. But maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll find some things as we get to our year ender.
Next up here, before we get to the review, so something we've been trying to do the last couple of years with the Patreon campaign is we've been trying to bring you guys new content, different shows, sort of niche stuff that you might be interested in. The new class has been doing these monthly, basically spooktacular streams where they watch a movie, you can watch along with them. They just did one of those last night. And now we got some other content we've been sort of developing here. And this is Jason. This was your brainchild and something that's we're still developing, but it's coming soon. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah. So myself, Sophie, Luke, and Andrew, 25-year-old Andrew, which we all just found out.
We're still reeling.
Yeah, it's awful. But I'm soldiering on. And we've come together to produce a new show for you guys. Right now, title is Behold an Electric Terror. And this show is about television. For the most part, anthology television. So here's how this thing is going to kind of come out to you guys, patrons, and those who want to hop on board. We're going to be primarily discussing anthology television, where we put up 4 episodes. We put it up on Twitter in the Patreon. You guys vote on what episode you'd like us to watch, and then we'll watch and review it. So, for instance, what we're going to be putting up this week for vote is a nice little array. A show called Werewolf, which I've never heard of. There's which essentially I guess is on Netflix. It's a
single episode show.
No, a single season in the 80s. And essentially, it's been described to me as the Incredible Hulk show in the 80s, except he just turns into a werewolf instead of the Incredible Hulk. And in this episode, he solves a Scooby-Doo style mystery in a haunted house. So very excited for that opportunity.
Huh. That sounds kind of freaking amazing, actually. Is that somewhere I can watch it?
Exactly. I'll probably watch it either way. Also, nobody except Sophie has ever watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So she's put up to vote Hush, which I guess is a very famous episode of that show. Luke has put up an episode of Channel Zero, which I've never watched Channel Zero. That's going to be up there to vote. And I have put up season 4, episode 2 of The X-Files Home to vote for an infamous episode of The X-Files. So you guys will see that out there.
It's funny, it never even occurred to me when you pitched it that you guys could just be watching random episodes of shows you've never seen, but I actually kind of love that idea, that possibility.
I like that you're each coming with your own show suggestions and letting the listeners choose too. That's pretty awesome.
Well, and also it gives us an opportunity to talk about some more popular things that are going on in longer arcs. Like, for instance, to give you guys time to vote, we're going to be talking about Stranger Things season 1 and 2 this weekend, which is hot topic. It's going to be a great discussion. I have feelings about that show that probably differ from most people. So, and the rest of my cast really loves that show. So
I forced myself through the first season. I had fallen off of it. Like, I watched it that summer it came out. My baby was new in the world, so I just had lots of time to watch things. But I kind of trailed off. I never finished it. And then I liked the season 2 trailer. I've been going back lately. I will say I really enjoyed the season 1 finale. I thought like it finally came through with a real emotional character moments in a way that had kind of been lacking. So I'm curious to kind of go into season 2 and see how it went. But I'm honestly feeling like I'm not watching it like I do some shows where I'm so into it I'm just compelled to keep going. I'm watching it because I want to be a part of the conversation, and that's kind of it. Which it's where I am. It's where I am in life.
Yeah.
John.
I have a lot of deep feelings about that, but I guess you're gonna have to wait for me to talk about it on our show.
You know, that's what we in the biz call a teaser, Jason.
That's right.
So that'll be available for everybody in the beginning, and then you can find it. You can become a patron at any level, I believe, Schnars, is that right? And you get all the spinoffs.
Yep.
Is that right?
Is correct.
So then you'll get that show, whatever that ends up being named. You'll get Something Red. You'll get Sophisticult, and any other future shows. You can just hop in at the $1 a month thing and get all that beautiful, delicious content. Good times. All right. Thank you for that, Jason. What was that all we had to cover here in the beginning, Schnorrs?
Yeah, we talked upcoming. What, Jason? Give me the show name again. It's gonna take me 15 tries to remember. So
That's fine. Behold an Electric Terror is what it's called.
all right, okay, I'm in. Yeah, I think I don't know, Eric. What else you got? What's top of mind?
That's it, John. That's it.
Can I talk about something that I just finished watching and I'd like to recommend?
Sure.
Mindhunters. You guys done through that? Finished it at all? Seen any of it?
I'm through like episode 7 or 8 at this
almost
point.
done.
Yeah, the wife and I are maybe 5 episodes in. My favorite part of Mindhunters, it's an amazing show, but my favorite part by far is the comically large text that comes up every time they're in a new place. It says like Toledo, Ohio, and when it happens, my wife and I both scream out the town name because it's like yelling at you. We're just like Toledo, like the whole show. We just keep doing it. It's great. But no, it's what's fascinating to me about that show is, it's set up as a FBI show and it's like about serial killers, and you'd think it'd be really actiony. And even though it has these really great punctuation moments to kind of wake you up sometimes, it's really just really fascinating, like almost Tarantino-esque way of just, it's all about the conversations and creating tension within those interactions. And the older FBI agent dude, the guy is a brilliant actor, and I don't think I've ever seen him in anything. And I'm like, I'm blown away by his portrayal on that show.
Yeah. One
Totally
thing I thought
agree.
was really, go ahead, John. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say it is odd to me because it's kind of slow. Like there's not like a ton of shit that happens. And the thing I'm concerned about, and again, I haven't looked ahead, so I'm not even. I guess there's 10 episodes, is what you guys are telling me. Or
Yeah, I think there's 10.
my concern is like, I don't know how, like they're teeing up. There's this like thing that happens at the beginning of every episode where they're kind of like teeing up a specific dude, and I'm like, how the hell are they gonna get to whatever is happening here and then resolve it?
Yeah, because I haven't seen that dude
Unless
actually.
they just like don't resolve it. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't seen
Well,
that dude actually do anything. It's just that dude skulking around so far.
Yeah. No spoilers, Jason.
Yeah,
all
I'm not
right,
gonna
that's
spoil
all
it.
set.
What I think is really interesting that they do is, aside from that, who I think is, and they haven't come out and said is BTK, right? The BTK killer, is that, like most procedurals, they'll introduce like this person gets murdered at the beginning of the episode, and then they attempt to try to solve that problem. Instead, what the show does is, in the middle of the show, they'll be like, hey, here's this character who's having girlfriend problems. And then like 15 minutes into the show, they introduce a murder. And then either it's resolved or it continues to carry on for episodes and episodes. It's very bizarre that way. I don't think I've ever seen a show handle
there's multiple
history that way.
there's multiple threads happening, right? And so every episode isn't the same. Like sometimes they'll just talk to a dude for an entire episode, or sometimes halfway through they're just in a random town helping with a case. But and it actually, like with lesser producing, could feel like more of a mess than it does. It actually, I feel like, ties those, at least so far for me, has held those threads together pretty well.
Yeah.
It's really great. I think it's
the thing that really sucks me in with that show more so than other police procedurals is the dialogue, especially between the two detectives.
Yeah.
That seems to be a step
yeah. Oh my
above.
God! Like I said, the older detective dude is totally brilliant.
So no one. This was like 4 episodes are directed by David Fincher. I'm just like looking this up.
Yeah. So this is his thing, his baby, I guess.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that well, it's just
Jason,
amazing to me because I had like not heard of it at all, and then people just started talking about it. It's like totally word of mouth. I've seen no marketing for it.
Jason, were you the one who sent the article around about Fincher and how it was like, I don't know, I can't remember if it was you, but I saw this thing that was using this show as an example of showing this is how David Fincher gets you to look at very specific parts of the frame that he wants you to be focusing on. And they were using examples from these episodes. It was kind of a neat thing.
I didn't. It wasn't me, but I did see that article, and I absolutely agree. Like it, Fincher's one of those guys that like I can recognize immediately.
Yeah.
It's his use of space. Yeah. It's minimalistic. It's almost like a lack of caring about his characters in a way. Like he just kind of lets them do what they're going to do, and you can judge them however you want. There's very little humanity to it. It's very sterile. And that show reminds me so much of like Zodiac. If you watch like kind of how that whole movie plays out, it's very similar. And it's something I love about because I love that movie. So
I'm always
does a great job.
I'm always like, my interest is super peaked for me when my wife and I can watch something like this and I can see that she is really into it, because she definitely can get into a suspense type thing if it's really, really well done. And so I love when I can find something like this that's a little scary and weird and creepy, but also is just so well done that I can see that she's into it. You know, for a comparison, we watched a couple episodes of Stranger Things and she was just like, I can't watch this show. But she's way into Mindhunters, and that makes me more excited because I'm like, this is so good, it has lots of crossover potential, I feel like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, and sorry, is she not watching Stranger Things because
She just doesn't like it.
too, or what's?
She just is not.
No,
It doesn't.
all
It
right.
doesn't hold her attention. She doesn't care. There you go.
All right then.
All right, guys. It is time. Another movie my wife really liked. Let's talk about Creep 2. Okay, I'm gonna stop the call here and restart it. If anybody who's watching on the stream, just hang on tight. We're gonna come back in a second. We just need to try to iron out the connection issues. All right, so everybody stand by, and then I'll reconnect this call here in a second.
Carl's still there.
Hello, hello.
It never dropped us.
No,
Yeah,
we stayed on.
we know.
Wait, really? Let me try that again. I
For
mean,
reals.
it went away for me.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hey.
I mean, this is much better for me right now. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel
Huh?
like Schnars,
Is that-
I feel like you and Jason have both been having some connection issues lately. I don't know what the deal is.
Comcast having like a big fuck all outage today too. So
The creepiest thing to me is when Schnars' audio gets off from his video and somehow Skype catches up with itself, but I never see a cut. Like Schnars' mouth is not synced up with his audio, but then somehow it becomes synced up and I never see a cut, and it's like some bizarre voodoo magic and I don't understand how Skype is doing it. It literally is like, it's like uncanny valley shit.
Nice.
All right. Can everybody hear me okay? Is everybody doing all right?
Doing great.
Yeah, it's better on my end right now.
Okay, Casey?
yes, I sound good. I hear good.
Okay. Worst case scenario, I'd
I
say
sound good.
worst case scenario, because I don't want to interrupt the review. So if it gets bad, just whoever's having trouble, kill your video,
Yeah. Okay.
and then we can try to get it back in or whatever. All right, everybody, I'm gonna mute. You don't have to worry about muting, but stand by and we'll just keep going.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. Fuck the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
And we're back. John Schnars,
Yes, Eric.
words.
What are they? How do they work?
Literally, John, today is November 6th. I've officially been asking myself that question for at least the last year. Have words ever met with Russian emissaries? I don't know. My guess is yes. but we'll have to find out.
If they're speaking Russian, I don't actually consider that word, so it's easy.
Well, John, despite the world over the last year and a half, 2 years, you are here every week. Some week, let's say some
Not
weeks here.
every week.
Some weeks here on Bloody Good
Many
Horror.
a week, okay?
Enough weeks to keep the fight alive, to make sure that words continue to have meaning. Because if words don't have meaning, John, have you seen A Never-Ending Story? If words don't, if words don't meaning, literally the world will disintegrate around us, and rocks will start talking and have babies, and
Falcor flies out of the sky,
flying dragon dogs and shit, and it goes
really bad.
It goes real bad.
Dies.
It goes,
I was gonna say somebody's gonna drown your horse.
It goes real bad is my point. So we're doing our part here to fight the good fight, to make sure that words have meaning. You went to Duke, so obviously that made you the primo choice to bring us words every week. Yeah. So with that said, please bring us the word of the day. Listen, I've been doing this for like 400 episodes, John. I never promised that the transitions would make any sense.
Yeah, we're gonna work on that, guys. We're gonna workshop.
Believe me when I tell you that there is real human emotion behind this new Schnarr Savior character. I'm just every week it's a gamble when I'm tapping into it.
Yeah, the well gets deeper, and if I don't show up one week, oh boy. So today's word. This is a tough one for pronunciation purposes. You'll understand what I mean. Trichotillomania. Trichotillomania.
Fear of Mark Duplass.
It is a compulsive desire to pull out one's hair.
Yes.
Wait, you dropped out there for a second. A what desire?
A compulsive desire.
Compulsive.
So this is actually it is a defined mental health disorder. But I can give you quickly the origin. So this has got one of the best all-time origins because it comes from a bunch of different places. The Greek trichos or trichtos is hair. Then you have tilion, also from the Greek, which means pull out. So in the French, that comes together to be trichotilo, and then the English gets added in the early 20th century. And it's a defined mental health disorder. People pulling out their own hair out of their head. More commonly, I believe it is associated to sort of body hair. So, eyebrow plucking.
Were you not on the friend request episode? Because the hair pulling out is like a key plot point in that movie. I'm surprised we haven't hit this one yet. You must not have been.
I was not on it.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah.
So he gets a pass.
Trico, John, my favorite yogurt. It's really good. It's got all that extra protein and it's good stuff.
The Greeks.
Yeah.
They know a thing about words and
yeah, definitely. All right, John Schnars, why don't you tell me about this movie, Creep 2?
Yeah, Creep 2, as we mentioned at the top of the show, directed by Patrick Bryce and co-written by Bryce and Mark Duplass of the Duplass brothers, Dupli.
I'm right, this is a Blumhouse joint, right? I thought I remember seeing the thing before. Okay.
Yep, produced by Jason Blum. This was also a Netflix, brought to you by Netflix. I don't know what their
we should say of interest too. Like as of Halloween night 2017, I had to on demand. I had to pay for this on Google Play. Like it did not go straight to Netflix, and I saw a lot of people jumping on Twitter being like, "What the hell's going on?"
How dare they make me pay to watch their film? That's what I say. No, yeah, you're right. So this was sort of originally released as a what do you call them? Direct to download. What are we calling this now? Non-theatrical VOD. In the title credits, it says Netflix presents or something along those lines. So presumably, and maybe even by the time people hear this, this will be available on Netflix. It's called Creep 2 because it is the sequel to Creep 1, which was also written and directed by Patrick Bryce and Mark Duplass. That first film, right at the top, but starred Duplass and Patrick Bryce. I I don't know if we want to. It's not even really a spoiler to say that Duplass is the bad guy, and he has essentially in that film tricked Bryce into coming to basically be a videographer for him.
Listen,
because he pretends that he's dying.
To just see that guy's face, you know he's the creep in the movie title.
Oh yeah. So Creep 2 picks up like with that as its starting place, right? And it's a really interesting experiment because it is itself also a found footage film, and we already know the backstory, right? So we already know that that Mark Duplass is the serial killer. In fact, the very first sequence of the film, we see him kill another person. But here, the sort of spin that they put on it is that he has now killed 39 people, and he's not loving it the same way he used to. You know, he's hit a bump.
It's like it's like a midlife crisis.
Sure, of the serial killer variety, I would say.
He's not feeling fulfilled in his art anymore.
No. Well, it's funny because he doesn't really call it his art. I mean, he does, I'm sure, at some point, but he also refers to it several times as his job, as like his life's work, but also his like career of choosing
his vocation.
It's very interesting watching this movie after listening to the Pete Holmes interview with him, because they spend so much of it talking about like literally all the stuff that this character is going through in this movie about, you know, aging and having a family and trying to keep the fire of being an artist and like all this stuff. And it's just funny. I can like, after listening to the interview, you totally see him working all that stuff out through this serial killer character.
Yeah. So so this time he connects with a woman, Sarah. Sarah has been making a incredibly unsuccessful YouTube series entitled Encounters, where her whole thing is she responds to Craigslist ads and then creates YouTube episodes about what the sort of like kooky and weird people do when she responds to their ads. So we see a couple of these, like she's like playing mommy with like a guy and singing him to sleep and kind of cradling him. But, you know, it's a somewhat clever way to kind of set up this whole found footage thing. I mean, they do a good job of really turning it into a really naturalistic experience, right? That's always one of the big hurdles with found footage. Is like, why is the camera rolling? Why do they keep taping all this? Well, here he has this incentive. She's like got this struggling YouTube show. She really wants to make it work. So she is really motivated to try to like capture everything about this experience with Duplass. And as soon as she meets him, he comes right out and says, like, I'm a serial killer. I've killed 39 people, and I just don't know if I can keep doing it. And I want you to kind of like film basically the next day. And he's going to pay her $1,000 for one day of work. And yeah, I mean, it tees up an experience that is like in some ways very similar to the first film, but then also pretty different. And they really do try some, it's hard to say they like try anything crazy. Again, they could have shot this thing for literally $0. Like the change that Mark Duplass had in his pocket when they were like getting ready, that's like what they filmed with. But they do manage to take it in a couple different directions. And really I think a lot of that comes out of the Sarah character and the ways that she is different from the character in the original film. Because again, ultimately here, you have a film with two people in the entire movie, one of whom is holding a camera and the other of whom is Mark Duplass. So.
Oh man, sorry, I just hardcore yawned. That was not about your synopsis schnars, but
yeah. I'll hold it against.
Got a case of the Mondays. Jason, why don't you tell me quick thoughts on Creep 1 and what do you think of this movie?
Yeah, I really, really love Creep 1. I think it's a fantastic, tight, suspenseful movie. I'm not a huge found footage person, but that movie works exceptionally well. It's well directed. The acting is very, very good. It's really weird how he's kind of cornered this market. At least I've never seen it, where it's kind of like cringe horror, essentially, right? Like the character comes in and just makes the other one feel uncomfortable, and it kind of just sits with you until you're creeped out by it. In a weird way, it's kind of like how comedy works on The Office. Like Michael Scott comes on, says something, and then just leaves you with it until you're laughing, but he just pushes it in the other direction, and you're just kind of left feeling uncomfortable about the whole situation, and it gets under your skin. And
like, but you also can't look away.
Right. Exactly. And it's enthralling. So I really, Creep 1 I think is a phenomenal movie. Can't recommend it enough. My wife and I actually, she had never seen it, sat down, watched it. She thoroughly enjoyed it, loved it. And I think it just works. Creep 2, I mean, Creep 2 is the sort of thing, like, if you liked Creep 1, you should be watching Creep 2, right?
Do you like creeps? Because
yeah, like creeps. If
you
you
are
like
gonna
creeps,
be in for something.
if you like gentlemen with, very Roman noses creeping you out, then you're in for a good time.
Do you have a fetish about people who look like literal hawks? This movie might be for you.
I mean,
like
I was gonna
Hawkman?
say if you ever wanted to see Mark Duplass naked, but I think he's.
Oh, you
done
do?
naked.
Holy crap! You do see
Several-
full frontal nudity in this movie for
see
several
full
seconds.
Dude, for like it's like 2 minutes of an 80-minute movie. He's just standing there naked.
Too much. It's too much.
And I would say, actually, I think he's a very interesting filmmaker. I've been watching Room 104 as well on HBO, if you guys have seen that at all. If you haven't and you like Creep, what are you doing? Like, that's
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
It's like Creep the television show, except it kind of plays out, and the whole concept of the whole conceit of that show is there's one room in a hotel over the years, so anything can happen in it, but it's all like this cringe horror type of thing for the most part. And I think it really works for him, and I think it works well in Creep 2 as well. I have some problems with it in terms of I don't think it holds together as well as the first film in some ways, but I do think it's well worth your time.
Well, we can get to that stuff here. Also, I want to say that Roman nose is my new favorite phrase, and I'm just gonna. I feel like that could also be a weird sex thing, but that's for a different discussion.
Oh, it is.
Casey, what did you think?
I like the first Creep plenty well. I've only seen it the one time. I haven't gone back to revisit yet. I really kind of want to go back and revisit it after watching this. That said, getting into this one, I really dug this one too. I can't say a whole lot different from what Jason said, but I'd say what appeals to me is I love Duplass's character in these movies, and it's a different take on the whole serial killer thing. And this one makes it even more different in the way he presents it, the way he's up front with everything and whatnot. And there's just some really good moments that he just, I think actually Jason's, God, now I'm drawing a blank, his Office comparison to Michael Scott, I think is perfect, because there's stuff that comes out of Mark Duplass's mouth, and then he just sits there and stares at you and waits for you to react, essentially. And that's what really gets you unsettled, because you're like, I don't know what it feels like you're there in the room. It feels like you're like, I don't know how to react to that. And then he takes off again. And at the same time, he's got kind of like a whole childlike wonder to him throughout the whole thing. And watching him get excited and exploring all this stuff and whatnot is pretty fascinating as well.
Yeah. John Schnars.
Yeah, I don't know where I land on this movie, if I'm being honest with you. Like, I would say I liked Creep 1 a fair bit. It was so out of left field in some ways. I mean, I think when we watched it, it's hard to even name another movie that it's like, other than to say that footage film, But like, even that doesn't really do justice to the fact that it's really a film that is about two people the entire movie, and so I didn't know what to expect. I didn't watch like any trailers or anything, and I was impressed that they were able to like pull this together and that it like clips along as well as it does. That said, I think I probably agree with Jason that I had more issues with this one. I think it kind of hits a lot of road bumps along the way, although ultimately it kind of gets where you kind of expect it to get to. I can't I mean, I don't I mean, maybe I've only seen the first one once. I actually found, or at least I thought this one was funnier. I'm curious if I went back and watched the first one now, like having a lot more context around it, if I would actually just be laughing a lot more.
I think that this one is funnier. I think the first one is more unsettling, and this one's funny, partially because of how well they're playing off of what you expect from the first film.
I think there's more clear
that's what I was gonna
jokes
say.
in this film, whereas the first one, you're laughing because you're uncomfortable, not because it's necessarily funny.
Sure.
In my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
This one, I also would say this one was less like there wasn't ever a time where I was like scared at all. Like this almost like works more as a comedy to Jason's point than it does as any kind of horror
Yeah.
movie.
I think it has its moments, but maybe not as much as the first film.
Well, it's just a super black comedy. It's like
Yeah.
ultimately what it is, right? But
Yeah, and
no,
actually,
I mean,
it's
it
funny.
really
I
is a
actually
testament
said
to
that
Jason.
I actually said that to my wife while we were watching. I was like, "Oh, this is actually just like a black comedy."
Yeah, I think to Jason's point, like it's a testament to Mark Duplass and like how just multifaceted he is. He
Yeah.
really is an interesting dude. I don't love everything that he's made. I watched Togetherness on HBO.
I wasn't that
for a
into
little while.
that.
I actually thought it was really funny. Like,
Yeah.
but we just never finished watching it. I don't know. We were kind of like we would laugh and then we'd just be like, man, I don't know if I need to keep
A little
watching this.
little too mumbly for me, Schnars. If I'm being honest.
Well, sure, but I mean, that's sort of how he does. Like, I would be very curious to read the script for this film because, again, and I'm sure we talked about it the first one, it feels like 80% of this could have been improvised. You know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would say these movies probably are heavily. I went back recently and watched the original again. The second time I had seen it, I was pretty high on it when we first saw it, and I was actually, especially for a found footage thing that kind of is a gimmick. I mean, it's not a gimmick, right? But the whole movie is gonna traffic on how much you can tolerate him, and I like him a lot, so it's not a problem. And I think going back, I just kind of was like, I wonder how I'll like this, knowing where it's going. And I just enjoyed the hell out of my second rewatch. It's still so uncomfortable. You know, the first time you watch it, you don't really know if he's crazy, and so that's where that tension comes from. The second one, it is a different feeling because you're watching the videographer get sucked in deeper and deeper, and you know what's going to happen. So it almost has this other kind of tension that you don't realize the first time because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I actually think that movie, going back and watching it again and seeing how strongly it held up, I would call that movie, like in some ways, a modern horror classic.
100% agree.
Especially if you're talking found footage genre. It's just such a unique, interesting thing. And coming into this, so this time around, I think it's not as scary as the first film, but I found it equally as tense because of this, like, everything we're talking about, this creepy, awkward Michael Scott thing that you just can't look away from. You also have like a little bit of I don't know, endearing feelings towards Mark Duplass a little bit. He's the returning character, and you like him, and he has these moments where he's really so earnest that it's kind of charming. But then he's playing back and forth between that and these like darker, creepy moments. Where this film really shines, though, I think, is in the main character. I think that for as much as I liked the last film, if there's a flaw for me, it's that the director, who's the only other actor in that one, he's just like the most boring milquetoast ass white dude ever. And listen, Schnars, it's okay to be a white dude.
Yeah.
You know, it's fine. But my point
Some
being,
of us are boring.
but
white people.
it's also like the character's really badly drawn. He's just really stupid, and he makes really dumb decisions without motivation, right? You don't know anything about the guy. What's brilliant here is like they spend this time in the beginning building up this character so that it makes 100% sense why she's sticking it out. Like, it's still dumb, right? It's a stupid millennial reason to hang out with a serial killer that you want your YouTube channel to be good, but that was enough for me. Like, I understood it. Okay, she's young, and she puts all of her self-worth on whether or not people are liking this content she's making, and it's going to drive her to go to a potentially dangerous place just to get the content. Bam, that's all I need. Like, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, but
and then
she puts a knife in her boot, so
Yeah.
clearly she's gonna be fine.
and that
There's a snake in my boot.
to be fair, she's pretty badass too. Like, she could probably, I feel like she could kick my ass. But those character traits inform her actions through the rest of the movie and sort of compels her to go sort of one-on-one with Duplass in a really fascinating way. She gives it back to him, and that's where this movie, to me, wins me over, is this back and forth where he's doing all the same stuff he did to the guy last movie. He's putting the werewolf mask on. He's trying to jump from around the corner and scaring her. And this really funny thing of she just doesn't react because she's waiting. She's just like, she's seen weird people and she's waiting for it and she has zero reaction. And then to see how that sparks fascination in him is so much fun to watch, because he's like, oh shit, like he gets really excited that he's kind of meeting not necessarily an equal, but somebody that is sort of stoking his creative fires again by throwing him for a loop. And at the same time, the film is kind of throwing us for a loop as an audience, because it's doing something we did not expect it to do. And so at no point in this movie, much like the first film, did I know where this was going to go. And I'm always talking about that kind of feeling in the show and how elusive it can be. And for that reason alone, even though it's not as scary, it does all these things so well again that I was really into it. And I think it does actually, I think it achieves some creepy moments towards the end, but it's not necessarily at the heart of this film like it was the last one, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
It's kind of.
Go ahead. Casey.
I was going to say it's kind of genius with a lot of the stuff you're pointing out there, Eric, because that's what helps make this movie stand apart from the first movie, because it would be really easy for them just to turn around and do the same thing. And a lot of times Mark Duplass is trying to do the same thing that he was doing in that director one, but it was subtle changes on the way he was acting and the way he was interacting with her. So you got to see this funk that he was in creatively, where he's feeling like he is lost and things did not feel quite the same, like they weren't quite as streamlined. And then, like you said, you could see him kind of getting the fire stoked as she was playing back with him and stuff like that. So as far as the way this was written to make it stand out from that first movie, it was a really solid continuation, just because you got to see him off his game that much and come back around to it because of her influence. And inspiration.
Yeah, I mean, you can really tell that they sat down when they were writing this and thought, what are ways where we can basically kind of misdirect the audience at every turn, basically. You know, how can we give them things that they are not expecting? And that I really appreciated that about it.
Yeah. I think, Eric, you called the first one modern classic horror movie, right? Totally
typical
agree.
Eric overstatement.
I did, in
No,
fact.
sorry.
I agree, but I would also counter with the first 8 minutes of this movie are better than anything that's in that first movie.
You think
the
so?
first 8 minutes of this movie are incredible. Like Karen Sani, the kid who's in Deadpool, he's in Room 104. He's also in Safety Not Guaranteed, Mark Duplass's like time travel movie.
Yeah.
Basically redoing sort of the shtick he did in the first one with unsatisfying results, and the way you can kind of see it play out before it happens is just brilliant. Yeah. And the way that scene ends is, you know, I thought that was pretty shocking, actually. Like, I didn't think it was going to take the violent turn that it took, sort of like the end of the first movie. So I thought that was phenomenal. Where I think this movie goes a little awry.
No,
What's that?
Never mind. Go ahead. I was just gonna say it's shot in this very matter-of-fact way that's actually kind of shocking. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he hangs his head, and it's just incredible. But the I think where this movie goes awry for me is the first movie is so streamlined, like it's so simple, beginning to end, and you kind of feel like they need to do something different, and it feels a little, to me at least, a little overstuffed for what they're trying to get across. I'd love to see it a little bit streamlined, a little bit. I just, quite honestly, like this man bites dog scenario where she's like kind of just hanging on because she doesn't believe he's a serial. Like, why bother with she doesn't believe he's a serial killer? First of all, who doesn't believe that?
Well,
because
I think
second of all,
because I think that if she doesn't believe he's a serial killer, I think it's a little easier for the audience to buy into her still. Like, she's sticking around because she thinks he's crazy and an interesting subject. If she really thinks he's a serial killer, why would she still be there? You know what I mean? Because the moment when she finally is like, oh shit, this is real, is really, it's at the end of the third act, and that's when shit immediately blows off. As soon as she realizes the danger she's in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess I just don't particularly buy that she wouldn't believe he's a serial killer.
Well,
like,
he does show her like a bunch of creepy, like,
like maybe
he shows her the
video of him killing the first dude in the first movie. Like, what?
Yeah, exactly. No, Jason, I think what you're hitting on, and I think what I maybe what I wasn't expressing as well earlier. This one has a little bit, because I agree with you. The first one flows a lot more cleanly, and this has a little bit more of an episodic quality to it. There's more sort of set pieces, if that makes sense. So I talked about the script earlier, and I have no idea, but it does feel like they're like, all right, like let's have the scene where he goes out to this river. And he's got this whole idea about what it's going to look like, and it keeps getting fucked up. Like that to me was like one of the funniest scenes actually. And then there's like, okay, well now we have to do the scene where he's back and he's like sitting in the hot tub and he's sulking, and like what happens there, like there was more set pieces, where it's like this happens, then there's this thing happening, then there's this thing happening. Because Eric, you hit on it, like for her and the sort of like motivations that she has, I actually was like totally on board. I bought her character. There's almost like I don't want to say fatalism, but there's a desperation in her character.
And she's, I don't know the actress's name, I'm not familiar with her, but she's really good. And I think is in a film where it's easy to get kind of drowned out by Duplass's kind of tour de force performances he gives in these movies, she, I think, holds her own.
Yeah, well it's really hard to be that natural and be believable, right? It's where you watch like one of the Paranormal Activity movies after seeing this, and you're like, oh, okay, this is what people look like when they're acting in a found footage movie, and this, it feels very real. Like it really does have a much more naturalistic quality to it.
Well, I think she gives us a really good quality of feeling like she's also could be an equal to him, like a match to his evilness, that she's got something about her that feels like it could just be as over the top. Because for me, like my favorite scene in this movie was that hot tub scene you're talking about. Because watching him sitting in the dark and she finds him there and you're just watching him, he's got that vacant look in his eye and you're like, oh,
that's
shit,
an unsettling.
He's going to go over the edge.
That's a creepy scene. And I think you nailed it, Casey. That's the fun part about the plot arc, is that she basically, it's like a game of chicken for 80 minutes. 80 minutes, right? It's he does something weird. She meets him and says, that's fine, I can handle this, I'm sticking with it. And there are moments where you think, I mean, it's like, he's a murderer, so in the end she's not really going to be able to hack it. But at the same time, it's fun to keep seeing them kind of raise the stakes and meet each other at that level and just kind of play that game of chicken. And then there's that great tension of how far is this going to go before the scale tips and she realizes she's in way over her head.
Right, and he had that look in his eye like you're thinking, oh shit, this could go completely off script.
Yeah.
As far as when he's sitting in there, and then she disarms him and she disarms us, the viewer, by climbing, without any hesitation, and she fucking climbs in with him, and you're sitting there watching, going, what the fuck you doing?
And that excites him, right? Like the idea that he can't predict what she's gonna do next because he's gotten so good at manipulating people. You see him getting excited from his interactions with her. I really too it's really interesting how I don't know, there's a weird sexual tension between the two of them, but it's never addressed by the movie and it's never a plot point, and I think that they did a great job of riding that line. Like the hot tub scene is a really great example. I don't know, it felt it's
hold on. Let's put all the cards on the table here, because I actually think you're totally right. I think it's 100% intentional. Like again, the movie.
Well, no, but I'm saying, right? But it doesn't become a plot point. It's just kind of simmering under the surface.
No, totally. But I would actually say that that's like how 80% of this movie is that they just introduce like this weird shit and then they just like let it sit there, and it all kind of like swirls around. Like there's other stuff. I feel like there's other elements to sort of their interaction. I mean, there's shit that they say to each other where you're kind of like, you cock your head a little bit, but it's all part and parcel of, again, just the way they've interacted. Yeah, no, I mean that sequence where, so we were like joking about it a little bit. She just gets there. It's like she's been there like an hour, and he goes, look, like I know men and women have a hard time working together because they're always just standing around imagining what they look like naked. Or I think he has a towel on at this point.
Yeah,
and he literally just like walks in front of him. He's like, so I just think it's important that we do this. And he like takes his towel and just stands there fully nude, and she holds a shot, and then he stops and he's just like, okay, I'm glad we got that out of the way. And she goes, okay, well, my turn now, and like hands him the camera, and then she gets naked
without hesitation, just gets naked. Yeah,
and it really like tees up this like again, it tees up what you're talking about, which is like this
Yeah,
sexual
that's-
tension almost between them, but it's like a weird, again, creep sexual tension almost.
But if you notice that scene, right, you get full-blown Duplass dick for like 3 minutes, right? You're staring that thing right in the face,
Just
right? But her,
full on twig and berries.
it does not spend any time on her body. It spends strictly on her face because that's what he's interested in. He is not particularly interested necessarily on a sexual thing. He's interested in people.
That's interesting.
And
Great point, really.
You know, it's funny, the cynical side of me was only considering that scene that maybe the actress didn't really want to do the nudity. There's a little bit of nudity, but now, when you say that, and I think, okay, it's actually him operating the camera, right? So maybe there is more to what he's focusing on.
Well, the read is, you could also read it as like not just that he's interested in her face, but or that he is not disinterested, but even like afraid of her body, right? And it does come up later that in the like they play two truths and a lie, or is it? I think they do it the other way around, which was confusing to me.
2 lies and a truth,
and his truth is that he's never had sex with a woman, or he's never had sex at all, or something like that.
God, there's levels to this movie, you guys.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's a very, very strange movie.
But I mean, my problem with that though is who the hell knows what he says, whether it's true or not.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you know, like.
But if you read that in the context of him not focusing on her naked body, like that's
it might
it's 2 data points.
It actually follows, yeah.
But at the same time, like you say, like Jason's saying though, the stuff that comes out of his mouth, that's just as easily him testing her for her reaction and him trying to ratchet up that weirdness.
Oh yeah. No, 100%.
He almost has this like Larry David level of testing people socially in social situations and then judging them and then making a determination about whether they deserve to live or die. And I think you can kind of see this play out in this film a little bit. In the first one.
Yeah, I love these movies. I think it's interesting having just listened to the Bill Simmons interview with Blum about his philosophy of making movies, right? If we make a movie for less than $5 million, then I can pick the script that's something that I've never really heard before, and we can just do it because it's low risk. And I think that this series is a literal dead-on, just, illustration of that philosophy. And I've heard some people...
If you make movies for $15, you can just make the weirdest shit you want to.
Yeah, but somebody like him has the clout to have them made well, but also have the distribution channels, which is really the key to all of it. And I've heard some people complain about the idea that maybe it's a little quality over quantity. But all I'll say to that is that these movies really are kind of filling the void left by the lack of a direct-to-DVD market, so to speak, right? Like, you used to see B movies on VHS, and you know what? Yeah. They weren't always the most amazing films, but they always had this, like, charm to them, right? And that's what I see when I look at a movie like Creep. It's not the most amazing horror movie ever made, but there was some really interesting thought put into it, and it's just charming as hell as a little low-budget thing.
It's not following the Hollywood formula.
Right.
Because of its nature.
Well, I mean, I think there's just different formulas, right? Like, Eric, what you're referencing, like, what you are referencing still exists, right? What's happened is, like, the tail has just gotten longer. Like, there's still the, like, Asylums of the world and all these other, like, crazy-ass production companies putting out just weird stuff. But now what you're seeing is actual, like, talent, like a Duplass, who can figure out a way to make this, not just a passion project where he like knows he's doing it and like maybe he's getting paid. Like he's probably doing fine on this, this thing's. I think Creep 1. Who the hell knows? That's the craziest piece, and I think they talked about it a little bit in that Blum interview. Like, it's super duper hard to even know what impact any of these movies are having financially because it's just on Netflix, and like Netflix has completely inverted the business model. Like. It's not about 50 people or 50 million people seeing it in the first 3 weeks. It's about like 50 million people seeing it over the next 10 years.
But then you get it. But then you get an interesting chance to test its impact by putting this out for a few weeks on Google Play and YouTube and whatever, and see like, okay, maybe they obviously feel like they have a little bit of a following with the first film. let's see if we can monetize it. Then we'll throw it on Netflix for everybody to have
Yeah,
at
I
it.
just like I cannot. I who the hell knows? You're right. I think you're right. They are trying to like just see what's going on out there, and this is. It's
Listen,
also interesting to
I
see
paid
them
for
test some stuff. No, I just mean like they didn't market this. Like I work in digital
all word
marketing,
of
so I
mouth.
I pay attention to this stuff. Like they could have like run like some marketing campaigns behind it. I would have seen some ads. Like my awareness of this movie coming out was solely based on our BGH Slack channel, like Slack.
Yeah.
You know.
But the first movie was the same way too.
I
It kinda
feel
came out of
like
nowhere.
I feel like
Sure.
I feel like I had seen some YouTube pre-roll stuff because I'm on YouTube like
Yeah.
all the time.
It's possible.
You and my 17-year-old.
Yep.
There you go.
Well,
Ask
I can
Delaney
legitimately
for it.
watch YouTube at work, so I can like put stuff on in the background. Like I'm not gonna throw Netflix on at work, although as much as I might want to. But
No, yeah. I mean, listen, I'm totally in agreement that it's awesome that things like this exist, and you know, there's going to be a third one. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yeah.
It's a trilogy for sure. So
Well, he was originally talking after the first one that he had planned it as a trilogy, didn't he?
yeah, and at this point, I'm
think
just
so.
like, okay, cool. Like
Yeah.
I would love to
I'll
see,
watch a third one.
especially seeing how the links that they went to make this unique from the first film. I'd love to see his crazy idea for the first one or the third one. So
Yeah, and he could go, especially with the way that they set up the story in the second one for the overarching story. Who the hell knows what he's going to do next?
Yeah,
It could become a splatter flick. It could be something completely different type of killer. He could, it could be gory. It could be even more cerebral. It could be all sorts of weird shit.
what if he decides he needs to give back and repent, and he has to try to take down a different creep? Played
He could turn
by
into Dexter.
Jeff Goldblum.
The OG creep.
Just putting that, just exactly.
Creep OG.
Just putting that out there. It's
Yeah.
my idea. I was gonna
I
do
would
a
watch
Jeff.
it.
I was about to do a Jeff Goldblum impersonation, then realized I can't actually do one.
I was like, where
have
would you go with
Just
that?
realized that's not in my repertoire.
Oh,
Good times.
God. All right.
All right, guys. Would you recommend Creep 2? Do we know, is it on Netflix yet, or is it still?
I don't think it is yet.
All right. So
Yeah.
So the question being, would you recommend this, and if so, would you recommend somebody pay for it before it's on Netflix? Jason.
If you saw Creep 1 and you loved Creep 1, then yes, you should definitely put your money down, watch it. It's well worth your time.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
John.
Yeah, I agree. I would say give it a look-see on Netflix for sure, and maybe even pony up. Let's test these business models and all.
Casey.
Yeah, I'm with Jason. If you like the first one, definitely it's worth the $5 to rent it. Go for it.
Yeah, I agree. My wife and I, this was the Halloween selection for this year, which is it's a lot of pressure, man. You screw up that one, and it's like you got to wait a whole year before you can recapture that moment.
Well, yeah, but
It's
if
always
you screw
nicer,
this
though.
one up, it's only
always nicer when you
75 minutes
select-
long. So.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
always
but
nice when you
Schnars.
select something you haven't seen. That way you can be like, well, I didn't know it was gonna suck.
Yeah, Schnars, are you trying to suggest that I might stay up and watch another movie after that? Because that's not how my life works.
No.
Yeah.
I'm aware.
But no, we were both very pleased and really enjoyed it, so I'd recommend it. These are cool little movies, and they are interesting to me. So there you go, Creep 2. All right, guys, let's take a quick break so that we can do some fan mail.
Something's bugging Dr. Jennings,
Time to work through this fear of spiders.
and he's trying to overcome it.
Finally lost control of all of his bodily functions.
Now, with the help of his friends,
This is way out of my league.
the support of his family,
Dad, chill out.
and the advice from an expert,
No room for amateurs in this game.
he'll conquer his fear of spiders.
Are you? Probably still in the bottom of my shoe.
Hollywood Pictures and Amblin Entertainment present Jeff Daniels, John Goodman, Arachnophobia, a thrillometer rated PG-13.
National sneak preview this Saturday night.
Hi, this is Doug Bradley Pinhead from the Hellraiser movies, welcoming you to Bloody Good Horror.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back. John Schnars, I'm ashamed to admit that was a repeat bumper from the new crop.
Eric, I wasn't going to tell anyone, but...
Well, listen, I got... Well, so I have way more trailers captured. I just have to go and edit the bumpers. But I was so disappointed because I was on this roll where... So you guys, nobody noticed this, right? But we've been running new bumpers since, like, the spring or something when I downloaded all those trailers and started cutting them together. And since then, every week, a new trailer has ran. There has not been a repeat. And the thing nobody noticed, John, is they were in alphabetical order. That was number one. That was Arachnophobia. And then we just did Young Frankenstein. Would have been really exciting because I forgot that I didn't edit all of them at once. I thought I'd edit all of them at once. So in my head, I was like, we're going to go for 2 years. And then at the end of 2 years, I can drop the bomb that we just listened to all of those in alphabetical order and nobody noticed. But it only worked for like 6 months because now I got to go back and edit the rest of them. But
well, here we are.
I was really excited, legitimately excited about that prospect 2 years from now, but it's all right.
Well, then life happened. Yeah. That's all right.
Whatever. It is what it is. We got a really exciting email today, John. info@bloodygoodhorror.com. We got an email from Elise. Elise works for 21st Amendment Brewery, which Joe featured here in the show. It says, hey, gang.
I'm a frequent visitor of their brewery.
She says, I just want to reach out and thank you for the shout-out on the Jigsaw episode. I've been an active listener of BGH for over a year now, and I'm always pumped to hear you guys supporting 21st Amendment beers on the podcast. I'm so happy you guys like the beer. I'm the Chicago rep. So, yeah, that's really exciting. Elisa wrote in. Thank you. We're always excited when we hear from beer people. Their stuff is really good.
They're the best people, beer people.
If I could drink beer, I would be drinking that beer. They do fireside chat, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, I have long talked of my love affair with that beer.
That was a good beer.
Yeah. If you want to be fat, drink fireside chat. It's like,
and I do.
It's like 800 calories in a can.
Yeah. Take it from me, you could drink about any beer.
That's right.
Next up, Rhiannon, please review The Ritual. I was so excited when it was mentioned as a potential for the show. I'd love to hear what you make of it. I have not even heard of this, so is that on our list?
Eric, we've
on
talked about it like 50 times because this is the book that Cece made you read, and didn't read books for a while. Yeah, so it has been released in the UK. It's unclear to me if we can get it in the US right now. Like when I search it, it doesn't come up with like, here are ways to buy this kind of thing. So
yeah.
It showed at the Toronto Film Festival, I believe.
All right, Schnars, one more email tonight. In the conversation literally no one wanted to have, but we didn't get enough emails, so here we go. John, did you see this article about Jason Goes to Hell and how it crosses over with the Evil Dead franchise?
Only because you guys were talking about it on Slack. And when I say you guys, I mean the people of Bloody Good Horror, because I didn't know who posted it.
Yes,
I posted that one actually.
Did you? Okay, there you go.
So, so here we go. How do you feel? This is from Toby. How do you feel about the new lore that Jason is part of the Evil Dead canon? Friday the 13th has always been my favorite horror series, and I personally think this sounds ridiculously stupid, even for horror. Per Adam Marcus, who was the director of Jason Goes to Hell, he was like incredibly young when he directed that movie. He actually was like, I think he was related to somebody at New Line Cinema or something. He had some connection, and he was like, it was his first feature film. He's a really interesting dude, actually. If you ever listen to him talk about that movie, he basically was just like learning what he was doing on the set. He says, this is from this interview with Adam Marcus. Pamela Voorhees makes a deal with the devil by reading the Necronomicon to bring back her son. This is why Jason isn't Jason. He's Jason plus the Evil Dead. And now I can believe that he can go from a little boy that lives in a lake to a full-grown man in a couple of months to zombie Jason to never being able to kill this guy. that to me is way more interesting as a mashup, and Sam Raimi loved it. So this was something that he had pitched to Raimi as an idea of a crossover, basically. It's not like I could tell New Line my plan to include the Evil Dead because they don't own the Evil Dead, so it had to be an Easter egg, and I did focus on it. There's a whole scene that includes the book, and I hoped people would get it and could figure out that that's what I was up to. So yes, in my opinion, Jason Voorhees is a Deadite. He's one of the Evil Dead. Okay, I don't know. Like funny thing, I actually really like Jason Goes to Hell, and I feel like it's just kind of a funny thing to read and go, oh, huh. But what ruined me on the story is how upset people got about it because this is the internet and we can't have nice things anymore. Like, who gives a shit, dude? This movie was made like 20 years ago and it's terrible, but I love it. And it's like,
Right. Yeah, and I like Jason Goes to Hell quite a bit as well. And it's mostly a nostalgia thing, but that movie just it makes a mockery of whatever mythology existed in the Friday the 13th, series anyway, so it doesn't really matter what happens in that film.
My thing is like it was never really a series about mythology though, really.
Right, yeah, of course.
Well, that's kind of the thing, right? Is it was sort of filling it in where it wasn't before, and I that to me is like I have tons of nostalgia for that movie because it was kind of the first one that came out. Where, I was already obsessed with the series, and it was the first one I remember coming on video, and I could be like, there's a new one, I can go watch it. You know what I mean? And that was really exciting to me, and I've just like always loved that movie. It is incredibly violent in a really awesome way.
Yeah.
And it was in the era in the 90s where the MPAA was butchering horror movies. It got cut to crap in the theater because they threatened to give it an X rating, and then you couldn't get there was like a regular VHS, and then there was the uncut VHS, which I have here on the shelf behind me, and it's unbelievable actually the difference of some of the effects in that movie are just mind blowing, and it's all practical effects. It was really kind of towards the end of that era when that stuff happened. So and I actually think it has some decent atmosphere in a goofy kind of fun way. I like the portrayal of Crystal Lake in that movie, like as it opens, the little town diner is having a Jason Voorhees like sale, and she's like cutting the hamburger patties to be hockey masks. It's like there's some silly stuff like that in that film that
people are always like checking out the shape of their hamburger patties before they eat them.
Yeah.
Well, then she explains to her husband in this really like hammy scene that the meat that you take out of the thing to make the mask, you then make a whole new burger. Hence your 2-for-1 burger sale, because you're just basically making a burger with a bunch of holes in it. I don't know. It's really it's goofy, and I really love it. But
you're not winning me over. But,
sure, Jason's a Deadite. Who gives a shit? I guess is kind of my moral of that.
Well, I kind of read that whole thing as like because that movie's always taken a lot of grief for doing something completely different with Jason, and making him like a worm or whatever the hell he is in that movie. And I kind of read this article as the director being like, you know what, fuck you, he's a Deadite. How about that? Like,
I mean, and there is a straight up Necronomicon in that movie. Like, it's right there. There's some weird mystical dagger bullshit or whatever. But what's a really cool moment in that movie, though? You don't watch, like, Jason isn't in the movie, right? You see other people possessed by his demon worm murdering people. But then there's a moment where they're in the house and they realize that Jason's about to be reborn. That is amazing. And then all of a sudden, Jason blows up through the floor like he's shot out of a cannon, and it's amazing. I'm sorry, that movie is kind of great. So there you
go. That movie had Aaron Gray in it, so they had me from the beginning.
No, yes, I had a wicked crush on her as a kid. I didn't even know who she was from anything else.
Buck Rogers.
It's a good movie. Also, oddly, starring the guy who was the lead in Friday the 13th, the TV series. So there you go. You might watch an episode of that on your podcast, Jason.
I was going to say, Jason.
I love
that's
that
a good
show.
One. I've only ever seen one episode of it. I would like to hear more about it.
It's cheesy in the best way possible. It's very, very good. And I think it's all on YouTube. So
sure, yeah. You'll have to hit me up if you guys ever do Tales from the Dark Side, because that's kind of my jam.
Oh, we will. Yeah.
Definitely my jam.
Oh, we definitely. That and that intro for Tales of the Dark Side is like one of my biggest nostalgia touchstones. Like my brother watching that in the woods, black and white. It's horrifying.
It's terrifying, and all it is a bunch of terrible stock shots of the woods.
Yeah.
They literally could have bought that crap off of National Geographic or something, because it's all about the voiceover, the VO, the writing, and then the stupid effect where it like flips colors.
Oh,
The dark. It's so good. It's so creepy and awesome.
classic.
info@bloodygoodhorror.com is where you can send all of your questions about my opinions on Jason Goes to Hell. You could also hit us up on Twitter @BG Horror. Schnars, what do we got doing on our dueling hashtags tonight? Oh my God! By the way, sorry, I just realized we went this entire show, and I didn't put any pictures up in the video. What the hell's wrong with me?
Oh my God!
I'll get some.
I worked hard for those pictures.
I'll get some embarrassing Joe pictures up here right now. Don't worry.
All right, perfect. So really quick, we got 2 BGH classics, both from the same episode 236. That was Mama. So these come to us from Space Lawyers Podcast @attorney@space. The first one, Infant Bones, is the name of Mark and my rock band, which kind of makes sense because we are tiny baby people.
That's true. We should note, too, that this is our official podcast lawyer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
All right.
So he has started his own show looking at science fiction films from a legal standpoint or something. I haven't listened to it, but I'm really excited to.
Interesting.
No, amazing. Okay, so the next one, same episode, Mama. All I know is that they, and you were talking about kids, are not my concern because I know how to use birth control. That's @EricBGH. Says funny looking back.
Not funny, actually. I stand by that, Schnars, because I didn't make a baby until I intended to. So I think I actually nailed that one, so to speak.
Congratulations, man. Yeah. Did I say that again? Back then? Great. So there we go.
Turns out I'm really good at not making a baby, and I was okay when I actually went to make one. So
you, so that is BGH classics. So if you're listening to any of our back episodes, the classic archive, as we call it, you can find those by subscribing or supporting us at patreon.com, patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. All right, let's flip it over to Ask BGH. We actually have a couple good ones here. So we'll dig in. The first comes from Moody. That's @_just_Moody_ again. A lot of underscores there. I find that the similarities between myself and Eric grow each week as I listen to the podcast.
Nice.
Should I see a doctor about this?
Definitely.
Yes.
Welcome to the dark side, my friend.
Yep, that's called being old.
Yeah, it's grumpy as fuck.
Do you go to bed at 9 o'clock? Are you cranky?
Yeah. Do you have terminal resting bitch face?
Is that what your disorder is?
Yeah, it's just it's a symptom of a larger disorder that's happening.
It's definitely terminal though. So the next one comes from Pet RH. Unclear to me what he's doing here with the name. It's @RealityBoy. He says, "Remember the times I used to tweet @BGH Classics? Me either, but I'm sure it happened. Happy 10, ladies and gentlemen, and Joe."
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Reality Boy. All right, Bruno Weber. That's Bruno the Weber. Am I a creep? Am I a weirdo? What the hell am I doing here?
What am I? It's funny. I was listening to that song yesterday morning on the way to work on a 90s playlist. It was a really weird playlist because I was listening to it again this morning, and it went from Tracy Chapman Fast Car to Nirvana to Metallica Black Album, and I was like, a little whiplash, but it was good. Listen, I will.
Yo, Creep is a great song.
I will listen to and sing me some Fast Car, so I don't want to besmirch.
No judgment. No judgment.
I'd say all Radiohead's pretty good.
Fair. That's a very controversial statement, but I'll let it stand.
I know exactly one Radiohead song, and it's that one.
Oh man,
come on.
Yeah, you're really just punishing yourself.
It was not one of my touchstones. I will say that.
I mean, whatever. I wasn't like Radiohead fan number one or anything. Like I've never seen them in concert or anything, but they've got some really good albums. Like that's just the way it is.
Maybe I'll check out this Radiohead you talk of, John.
20 years later.
Yeah. All right, let's move along. L10, that's UNIC Messi, Unic Messi. I don't know. He says, "Will there be a Creep 3?"
Oh, dude.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the answer is yes. Okay. And he actually asked a second time, "How much can you tell us about the ending of Creep 2? Any explanation of what happened to Sarah?"
It's pretty self-explanatory. I don't want to spoil it. I feel like it's part of the fun is building up to all that stuff that happens at the end.
Yeah, I mean, the movie, it'll be interesting to see where they go with 3, right? Because this one ends in a different place than Creep 1 ends, without being explicit. And, who knows? They could go a couple different directions. So,
I'm pretty confident in some way they'll deal with the end of Creep 2 and Creep 3.
You would think.
Yeah.
It would seem amiss if they didn't.
Right.
All right, couple more here. Deanna, that's at Femme Fatalisms. Any thoughts on the Twilight Zone reboot by Jordan Peele? Very interesting question for our friend Jason. She also follows up with, filled with rage because it's only going to be offered on CBS All Access.
Oh, lame.
It is lame. I think he's a
lame.
perfect dude for that, though. Like, I think he will crush that. And hopefully a wider audience may spread that out a little bit. I think I can't foresee that remaining just online at CBS All Access.
I mean, the CBS All Access thing is hilarious, especially given like the median age of their audience. I mean, I guess maybe it's a play at some of a younger audience because like they're doing Star Trek and this thing, but
I think they're going for the people who were alive when the first Twilight Zone came out.
Yeah, it's true. I'm just thinking about it now. Yeah, like it was Star Trek and then this now. Like, are they doing other stuff?
Both kind of legacy shows, but at the same time, shows where you would expect your audience to be nerdy and pretty well versed. Be able to navigate the technology to get it. I mean, listen, they still want people to watch on their actual channel. It's just like that's not how I live my life, man.
No, well,
Right.
but that's the thing. Like, my dad would have watched the new Star Trek show if it was available on TV. You know?
Sure.
Like, he loves Star Trek.
No, it is on TV.
Like, it's like his favorite thing.
It is on TV.
I thought they only made it available on All Access after the first episode or something like that.
No, it's totally on TV. But the thing is, everybody now, like, you want to stream it. But the only place where you can stream it is if you pay for their All Access thing. Because, like, I don't have a DVR, so I can't, like, just DVR it off the TV or whatever.
My understanding with the Twilight Zone is that it's only going to be available online.
Really?
It's not going to be on.
That's mind-blowing.
Well, in All Access, do you actually... whatever, we don't need to get into this fucking CBS nonsense. So it's dumb. Let's just leave it at that. But I thought if you had a cable subscription, you could just, like, download it and like, sign in. Like, it was like HBO or something like that.
No, CBS All Access specifically is a paid-for thing. Like, you can go on to their thing
so it's
and
basically
stream
Netflix. Like, they're like weird Netflix now, basically.
Well, or like, yeah, I guess. I mean, the thing is, they still have some shows. So my wife and I will watch 48 Hour sometimes. You can go on there and get maybe the last like 4 episodes, but you have to pay to get all of the. It's like Hulu almost.
It's like BGH Patreon.
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
CBS is finally caught up to our business.
Except
model.
with BGH Patreon, you're supporting real people and not a faceless, terrible corporation.
Right. Yo, dude, Les Moonves has a couple of.
He's definitely a man of the. He's definitely a man of the people. Les Moonves.
You could pay for CBS and get the last 2 episodes of 48 Hours, fucking The Twilight Zone, the show,
and the thing is,
Jordan
like,
Peele, and 2.5 Men.
At least with even with the Star Trek, it's like, listen, there are only 2 shows that I will appointment TV watch, and that is Game of Thrones and Big Brother. And sometimes I like 60 Minutes on a Sunday evening, Schnars, but that's like I will not. I don't care what show you are. I will not hang out on a weekday night and watch you because I got my own thing going on.
Right.
Yeah, you don't control Eric.
I have broken free. I've broken free from. I spent years, Schnars, shackled by the confines of traditional television scheduling. I used to just for years watch like 3 hours of TV a night, like a zombie, and I'm so like, I'm free, John. I do what I want.
No. All right, let's move on.
I think this is the most important conversation we've ever had.
Eric's.
That's just me.
Lord. So Nick Scott, that's at Nick Alman Scott. He says, how does Jigsaw know the crimes people committed that he places into his quote games? He can't be everywhere.
I would, maybe that was something they explained.
That was my interpretation of how he was asking.
Maybe that was something they explained in one of the earlier films, and they just don't even bother anymore. But I don't even know.
So I remember in some of the earlier films, it was like all people who like had committed crimes that were like on the public record, but then like he felt like hadn't been punished enough or hadn't like learned their lesson, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, but there are scenes in this Jigsaw movie, John, where he just overhears
don't spoil it for me.
The most ludicrous shit you could possibly imagine. Like he just detects it by hearing through a wall.
We said it during one of the show, but one of the people sold his, we find out that this is a spoiler. One of the people sold his nephew a faulty motorcycle or something that his nephew then got in an accident on. Like that's the level that we're at now with Jigsaw. Like that's the most egregious crime we've got left.
They're like retconning Jigsaw. They have this like huge family that just like buys faulty shit off the internet.
I'm just picturing like Sons of Anarchy style. They're sitting around a barbecue and it's like, this motherfucker sold me a bad bike.
Like,
oh really?
You bullied my cousin thrice removed.
Right.
You better shoot a bunch of fucking razor blades.
You cut my half sister off in traffic. Here's a toilet bowl full of hypodermic needles to dig into.
You cut my sister at the post office. I want to play a game.
Do you want to play a game? No, I'm good, bro. Thank you.
All right, we got two more here, both from our friend Whitney.
I don't know. I would kind of like to spitball more Jigsaw strained relations.
I'm just trying to keep the show on track at this
Why?
point. Listen.
You ate out of my lunch in the refrigerator at work.
I got a bed to crawl into.
You stole my Greek yogurt from the refrigerator at Jigsaw at work.
Now one of these yogurts has a razor blade in it. Choose.
Now the joke's on you. Yeah. One of these yogurts is tainted with botulism. You must eat all of them to find out which one.
One of these has like coli in it.
Dude, you guys would make shitty Jigsaw.
No, this is the most horrifying thing. One of these yogurts doesn't have any fruit at the bottom.
Oh, no.
No.
Give up.
I'm done.
To die now.
Wanna play a game? I love this. This is my new favorite recurring segment.
I'm definitely watching that movie now.
Can't wait.
Cool. All right. So if anyone else has suggestions for Jigsaw games or Jigsaw things that happen to Jigsaw family members and then games that those people would be forced to play, tweet them at us.
If I
that
was,
would be a fun thing for us
this
to read.
is me. Like, right, if I was Jigsaw, the people on the top of my list would be like people who sit next to you in an empty theater when there's plenty of seats. People who bring their small children in theaters. People who take their shoes off on airplanes. You're in the Jigsaw trap.
I don't know, dude. If you get your feet swell a lot, sometimes you gotta slip the shoes off, man.
Oh, John's in the warehouse.
You are on dangerous waters right now, my friend. I do not think that is something you want to bring up on this show.
Mm-hmm.
All right, listen. I'm just saying we put out a call for missions, and if people have any fun games that they would expose people to.
Yeah, like speaking of work, like if you've ever reheated fish in a work microwave, you're in the Jigsaw trap.
Yeah,
you're done.
Jigsaw trap.
You do not appreciate life, and you need to learn a lesson.
Yeah.
All right, Snars, carry on.
Eric's bars. What qualifies someone? Oh, Christ. All right.
I love it.
Let's move.
It'd be a better movie than the last movie, actually.
Yeah. That would be
should make a
hilarious.
spoof where it's just people doing like really kind of
when we end
shit.
this call, Snars, I'm going to tell you the actual twist of Jigsaw, and it's going to blow your mind.
Yeah, oh, come on. All right.
There's no way you're going to watch it, dude. Come on.
So really quick. Maybe. Well, probably not. So really quick here from Whitney Lynn. So first she says, what's the creepiest experience you've ever had? I'm assuming she's kind of, looking for like real creep type behavior, Because we've told a lot of creepy. So
I've definitely told this story on the show, but when I was living in Florida, I definitely got propositioned in a movie theater bathroom one time. That was pretty unsettling. Yeah.
By a gentleman.
Oh yes. Yeah, a gentleman caller
Nice.
I had. Yeah.
A gentleman caller.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Was it like whatever? I mean,
well, go ahead.
Just like a public movie.
It was before a movie. There were like plenty of other people in the bathroom, and he sidled up next to me at a urinal, and he started like clearing his throat really weird, and I'm like, I just ignored it at first, and then he kept doing it like really loudly, and I just kind of like looked over a little bit, and then he literally turned and leaned over mine and like checked out what was going on. and then like nodded at me, and I was like, "That's
Wow.
my cue to pitch it and walk out."
Then that dude blacked out and woke up in Eric's jigsaw trap.
Yeah, that wasn't cool.
I don't think that is flattery. Jigsaw would take that as flattery. He wouldn't. Come on, that's not punishable.
Jigsaw is a modern man.
Yeah,
I agree. He's woke.
I mean, he seemed impressed at least, so I guess I get to take that away from it.
That's true.
All right, let's just move on.
Well, no, what about you, Schnars? What's your creepiest?
No, I was trying to think. I don't know that
My creepiest.
Like, cause I'm just thinking like encounters with creepy people, because that's what the theme of this movie is.
Yeah, mine is looking into the dead drunk eyes of John Schnars while at the fish fry.
Oh, you see, it's like Lovecraftian horrors in his eyes when they roll over black like a doll's eyes.
Yeah, I saw the old gods in his eyes.
Yeah.
The ancient ones.
The thing, I'm that guy. I am that guy. I'm the one communing with
Just
the ancient gods. So
full of Dunwich horrors.
Mm-hmm. I was at the Mountains of Madness.
One
right, time,
I'll give you the easier one here. From
one time, Schnars got home from work and his doorman wasn't there to open the door for him, and he did not know what to do.
Those are the type of people that
This is not a joke. John Schnars has a doorman, and he knows his name, and he calls him Mr. Schnars.
He does not call me Mr. Schnars. That is nonsense.
And John knows his name, but he calls him Jeeves anyway.
That might be accurate.
Benson.
Come on. All right. Who is most likely to be labeled as a creep
Joe.
amongst the BGH crew?
Joe.
Yeah.
Joe.
I mean, come on. It's a slam dunk.
He owns it. He owns it, though.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So that's all we got. That's our last Ask
Woo!
BGH.
It's a good show, guys. Feeling it. Oh. Let's try that again. There we go. I feel like we really worked through some stuff on this show tonight, John.
We're getting deep on some of these jigsaw punishments that you guys have lined up. So it's revealing something about you.
Yeah.
Is really what's happening.
Or like you think it's yogurt, but then you open it up, and it's really cottage cheese. That's like the biggest horror I could ever possibly imagine. Cottage cheese, disgusting.
You guys got some interesting yogurt situations going on in your lives. That's what I'm learning.
I mean, that's the thing at work. Like, people steal that Greek yogurt because it's expensive, and it's just delicious.
Right.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's delicious. Very filling.
Yeah.
And you take a bite of that, and it's sour cream. Ooh, tough day.
It's terrible. John Schnars. I'm really liking the look in Jason's eyes right now. I like it. He's really getting into this.
Oh boy.
John, what's next week?
We are watching The Babysitter, currently streaming on Netflix.
I get really excited for this time of year when we're just starting to squeeze in a bunch of stuff that we have had just hearty recommendations for, because it's usually, it's some good viewing. So exciting.
Exciting it is.
info@bloodygoodhorror.com is the email address. Don't forget, check us out, patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. Get access to the entire back catalog, all the spin-off shows, all kinds of other cool stuff. And we are here for you post-Halloween, so don't forget, bloodygoodhorror.com. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you guys next week.
See you.
See you later.
Bye-bye.